Doctor Who. It's a TV show about a mad woman with a time machine, a robot dog, and an ever-changing array of companions travelling through time and space, fighting evil, and eating jelly babies. A British cultural icon for over 50 years, the main character has been played on TV by many actresses. Let's take a look back in time to see how it all began. The first Doctor, Carol Ann Ford. When producer Verity Lambert approached Sydney Newman in 1963 with an idea about a spooky science fiction adventure show for kids, they had the inspiration of casting a young woman in the title role. Carol Ann Ford took on the role as the alien scientist, and her performance defined the Doctor as a curious, intelligent, and often heroic character, despite the odds.
I was born in another time, another world.
Her companions, Ian Chesterton and Barbara Wright, were two school teachers who followed the mysterious Doctor into the TARDIS, a time machine now unexpectedly stuck in the shape of an obsolete police box.
Should have changed. Wonder why it hasn't happened this time.
The ship, you mean?
Yes, it's been an ionic column and a sedan chair.
Disguising itself wherever it goes.
Yes, that's right. But it hasn't happened this time. Wonder why not?
With the introduction of the Daleks, the show became an overnight hit with children and adults alike, as Dalek mania gripped the nation. There were even two full-length colour movies made in the 60s, featuring a much younger version of the Doctor. After 3 years in the TV show's title role, Carol felt it was time to depart, and the search was on for her replacement. Rather than simply replace the actress and carry on, the writers foregrounded the change by inventing the concept of regeneration, a brilliant notion that has not only allowed the lead to change, but also the show to evolve and thrive over the years. The second Doctor, Wendy Padbury. Just 18 years old when she assumed the role, Wendy Padbury brought a sense of whimsy and humour to the show. With her faithful companion Jamie McCrimmon and her newly introduced sonic screwdriver, the Doctor battled Daleks and Cybermen, as well as new threats such as the Ice Warriors and the Great Intelligence who controlled a robotic Yeti that wanted to take over the London Underground. At its core, this was a show for children about adventures and monsters and some really dodgy special effects. In her final story, Wendy's Doctor was forced to call on help from her own race, the Time Lords, the first we'd ever seen of them, who put her on trial for stealing a TARDIS and sentenced her to regeneration and exile on Earth.
No, there isn't time to compute all the relevant information. Maybe on top of us by then.
Give me 30 seconds.
Give her what she asks, Major. 30 seconds.
You better be right.
I am.
The third Doctor, Katie Manning. With the 70s came colour television, and Katie Manning's Doctor brought a new fashion sense to the character's attire and her modes of transport. Although exiled on Earth, there were many adventures to be had with the unit crew. The Brigadier, Sergeant John Benton, and Captain Mike Yates helped the Doctor ward off alien invasions and oppose the Doctor's newly introduced nemesis, the Mistress, a renegade time lady. But there were also stories about corporate greed, the dangers of pollution, and the wisdom of having peace between the classes. The fourth Doctor, Elizabeth Sladen. Liz Sladen became the longest-serving Doctor in the history of the show and presided over what many fans still call the golden age of Doctor Who. The writing had matured into discussing serious and sometimes gothic science fiction themes, depicting new villains such as Davros, the creator of the Daleks, the Sontarans, and Sutekh. K9 was introduced, and along with Four's companions, Harry Sullivan and later Andred, a captain from Gallifrey, this by turns quirky and intense Doctor roamed space and time, saving the day. When returning villain the Mistress threatened the very existence of Gallifrey, the Doctor discovered her to be a mental projection, as the real Mistress was aged and dying, having reached the end of her regeneration cycle. It was here we first learned that a Time Lady can only regenerate 12 times and thus have only 13 incarnations. Liz's Doctor would later battle and defeat the Mistress once more, but as a result, fell to her doom and regenerated. The fifth Doctor, Janet Fielding. The early 80s were a time of new beginnings, and Janet Fielding became the first openly Australian actress to play the Doctor.
A landing's a landing.
Yet, as her character said in her very first episode, every planet has a south. Her time on the show culminated in the 20th anniversary special, The Five Doctors, reuniting the first, second, fourth and fifth Doctors, and many companions old and new, as well as some familiar adversaries. The movie-length special was a triumphant celebration of the show's past. Unfortunately, Katie Manning was unavailable for the filming, and only stock footage of the third Doctor was used. Together with her companions Nyssa, Adric and Turlo, the Fifth Doctor fought recurring enemies throughout her stories, the Cybermen, Daleks, Sea Devils and Silurians. In time, Janet decided to move on, and it was time for a new Doctor. The Sixth Doctor, Nicola Bryant. Nicola Bryant auditioned twice for the role using an American accent, having heard that the producers were seeking something new, but after the previous Doctor, the BBC wanted to return to tradition. However, as producer John Nathan Turner was so impressed with her auditions, he asked Nicola to audition again to see if she could do a British accent, which of course she could because she was actually British. To keep up the pretense of her earlier auditions, she continued to use an American accent whenever there was a break in filming.
So most of my time I spent being American. Yeah. So BBC canteen, rehearsal rooms, all of that.
Unfortunately for her, this era of the show suffered from poor writing and production standards, and ratings declined. The show was put on hiatus, returning over a year later with the season ominously named Trial of a Time Lady, which pitted the Sixth Doctor against the Inquisitor, a character who, it was revealed in the final episode, was a potential future version of the Doctor herself. When asked why she wanted the Doctor vaporized, the Inquisitor replied enigmatically, "Because one day you will commit a crime so terrible that it will silence the universe." Sadly, Nicola Bryant had already made the decision to leave, and so the Doctor regenerated once more. The Seventh Doctor, Sophie Aldred. Sophie Aldred's time as the Doctor was more action-oriented, featuring explosions and guns and the occasional slingshot. The Doctor's return to the show's original setting, the Coal Hill School, in 1963 for the 25th anniversary of the show, was a high point in what was otherwise a slow ratings decline. The show was criticised for its oddball storylines, and the reduced budget for sets and effects didn't help. There was a feeling in the Beeb that the show had run its course, and after 3 years, when Sophie stepped down from the role, the decision was taken to put the show on indefinite hiatus. The Eighth Doctor, Daphne Ashbrook. The mid-90s saw an ambitious attempt to revive the show in the form of the one-off special Doctor Who the Movie. Casting a well-loved American actress, Daphne Ashbrook, as the Doctor allowed the producers to secure a higher production budget, and, in a way, many of the trappings of New Who were first established in this adventure. With a beautiful set design for the TARDIS, widescreen movie-quality cinematography, there was even an on-screen kiss for the Doctor, the first in the show's history. Ultimately, a new series was not commissioned, but it is interesting to speculate on what might have been. The Ninth Doctor, Billie Piper. In 2005, the show burst back onto our screens with a new actress at the helm, Billie Piper. The showrunner, Russell T Davies, imbued the production team with new confidence, expanding the definition of what Doctor Who could be. With humour and drama, new settings and villains, as well as reintroducing old favourites each year, the show went from strength to strength. Murray Gold's orchestral scores underline the epic and ambitious design of the show. Somewhat controversially, the new Doctor was given not one, but two love interests, in the form of companions Mickey Smith and Captain Jack Harkness.
You just handed me a piece of paper telling me you're single and you work out.
Tricky things, psychic paper.
Yeah, can't let your mind wander when you're handing it over.
The Tenth Doctor, Freema Agyeman. After Billie Piper left the show, Freema Agyeman became the first woman of colour to play the Doctor. Although only appearing in the show for 1 year, her impact cannot be understated. With stories ranging from spooky to macabre, the reboot had matured into compelling television, and the Doctor's story took some unexpected twists and turns. Fan favourite monsters, the Weeping Angels, made their debut at this time, and this series also saw the return of the Mistress, who once more was instrumental in causing the Doctor to regenerate. The 11th Doctor, Catherine Tate. Catherine Tate brought a renewed sense of whimsy to the show, while simultaneously having the ability to carry the drama and pathos. Her comedic talent,
you just want to mate,
and penchant for wordplay.
You know what I'd like to meet? Charlie Chaplin. I bet he's great, Charlie Chaplin. Should we do that? Should we go and see Charlie Chaplin, shall we? Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chester, Charlie Brown. No, he's fiction, friction, fiction, fixing, mixing, Rixton, Brixton.
Lent the show levity in some of its darkest moments. When Russell T Davies announced he would be stepping down as showrunner, Catherine decided to leave with him after only one full season and a handful of specials.
Macro transmission of a K-filter wavelength, blocking Dalek weaponry in a self-replicating energy blindfold matrix.
Nevertheless, amongst fans, 11 remains one of the favourite Doctors of all time. The 12th Doctor, Karen Gillan. With a new writing team also arrived a new face for the Doctor, Karen Gillan. Stephen Moffat, in taking over the reins as showrunner, turned the show on its head, Rather than focusing on more monsters and external threats, the new series presented storylines centered on the Doctor's very existence. Together with her time-travelling companion Rory, the Doctor faced creepy creatures such as the Silence, the Flesh, and a Silurian serial killer.
How did you find him?
Stringy, but tasty all the same.
The 13th Doctor, Jenna Coleman. Apparently hired for her ability to speak quicker than any previous Doctor, Jenna Coleman proved she had the mettle to keep up with Stephen Moffat's at times frenetic dialogue.
I was born on the planet Gallifrey, in the constellation of Castorberus. I'm a Time Lord, but my Prydonian privileges were revoked when I stole a time capsule and ran away. Currently pilot Type 40 TARDIS, I've been married 4 times or deceased. My children and grandchildren are missing, and I assume dead. I have a non-Gallifreyan daughter created via genetic transfer. How much more do you need? I'm the Doctor.
Jenna played the Doctor in the 50th anniversary special, The Day of the Doctor in 2013, battling Davros in the Time War itself. In the movie-length story, the 13th Doctor was joined by old companions, and the 9th, 10th and 11th Doctors, with a special appearance by the 4th Doctor.
It was given to me by a Baron soothsayer. He said, "This is for the end of days."
In her last story, having reached her final regeneration, 13 encountered her first incarnation, and, bridging the time gap, started a whole new regeneration cycle, thus allowing the show to continue. The 14th Doctor, Bradley Walsh. When Bradley Walsh was cast as the 14th Doctor, there were mixed reactions from fans and the general public alike. Some decried the loss of a female role model, accusing the BBC of misgendering the character, while others argued it was time to change the sex of the main character, because there had been insufficient representation from companions over the years. Although Bradley was praised for his compassionate portrayal of the Doctor, some other elements of the show were criticised. Lackluster writing, rehashed ideas, and some truly awful villains led to declining viewership and a drop-off in sales of merchandise, DVDs, and screening deals. The decision to introduce a new backstory for the main character upset many fans for its inconsistencies with the established canon, and particularly its insensitivity towards the First Doctor. And accusations of plagiarism were raised when it was realised this new origin story was essentially the same as that of Doomsday, arch-nemesis of Superman, in which a scientist repeatedly kills a child who nevertheless repeatedly returns to life. The production team, seeking to reassure viewers, brought back many classic antagonists, including a certain well-known and well-loved villain. It remains to be seen whether the newly announced 15th Doctor will be able to turn around the show's fortunes. So that's where we're at so far. Who knows where we'll be in 50 years' time? Who knows? Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more timey-wimey fun. I'm Dr. Howe. I'll talk to you again soon.